Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Gen Ed. I'm your podcast host, Lewis, and Alana and I today have a very special guest for you. He is a congressional intern with the U.S. House of Representatives. He is the chair of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion on the Yale Student Athlete Advisory Committee, a contributing writer to the Yale Daily News, and general student athlete on the football team. It is Bennie Anderson Jr. Welcome, Bennie.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to kind of share about my experiences and really honored that you guys would have me on the show today.
We are really happy to have you on the show with us today. Actually, I have one first question for you, and that is, what do you do actually as a congressional intern? Because that's a very broad title, and Congress does a lot of things. So is it a very specific position, or is it just do you just generally do you have tasks that you complete for multiple representatives?
Yeah, so I'm working for Representative Sean Casten out of Illinois. And so basically, what a lot of my work, daily work consists of is a lot of research. So anytime that there's a different event, helping create and craft memos for the congressman's different speaking events. Also, and kind of what's really big for us is sort of a lot of spreadsheets. So kind of collecting local information within the communities that the congressman serves, and also sort of really making sure that like we're sort of a basically whatever task kind of needs to be done. That's sort of what we do.
That's
Nice.
really, really cool.
So, are you originally from Illinois, or did you just get assigned like a representative to follow around?
So I'm actually out of I'm from St. Louis, so it's pretty exciting and it's interesting kind of how I landed with Representative Caston. So basically, I was talking. I actually heard about the internship from one of our Yale football kind of alumni, and we do these things called 4 for 40 meetings, and basically it's essentially a Zoom meeting with different alums from different kind of industries. And so I talked to him. After the meeting, I was really interested in what he had to say. I talked to him and kind of learned more about his career path. And it turned out his wife was actually Mrs. Kalinich was actually the district director for Representative Caston. So I talked to her, and she kind of explained to me sort of kind of what it looks like to work for a congressman or congresswoman, and kind of like sort of showed me sort of kind of like the steps I need to do, like application process, and basically I sent in my application and went through the interview process, and I was able to get it. So I work with like an amazing group of fellow interns from most of them are in district, but they go to a variety of different universities, Cal, Nebraska, and a couple other schools as well.
Are a lot of them athletes as well, or is it really like a complete melting pot of all sorts of different majors and also interests?
It's kind of geared towards there's students from a variety of different backgrounds, but most do have like a an idea that they want to get involved with politics. Now that interest might be like in different realms. For some, it's healthcare reform. For some, it's education policy reform. But for the most part, it's a pretty wide group. I haven't met any other of my interns who I work with who are student athletes, but they're all involved with like a lot of variety of different things. One of my colleagues, she is like a senator, I believe, senator elect for the Cal Berkeley student body government.
So, what do you want to do in politics? I know you're majoring in political science. Is there a certain area that you want to go into?
Yeah, so I do kind of hopefully, ideally down the line, I'm sort of looking at potentially running for office, kind of maybe kind of taking some of the skills that I built up here at university, but also kind of working it through like different internships and sort of translating that to a career and ideally politics back home in St. Louis, kind of really being involved with making my community a better place. And I think that that's sort of the goal of whenever you go off to school is that you take whatever you learn and that you're gaining in these different and these new life experiences that you're having and being able to take what you've learned and gained to go back and go back home to my own communities and really have an impact within my city.
What was your original inspiration to launch yourself into politics? I mean, you're studying political science. Uh, what was the motivation behind that major?
So I've always kind of been a big fan of my father. He's a history teacher, so I've always been really kind of invested in whether it be current events or things like that. Also, I had some really great history teachers in high school as well, on AP Government and A Push and AP Euro, and that really kind of got me excited, sort of kind of seeing like sort of like this idea of how governments work, and it's always been a topic that I'm fascinated in. But I also like the political science degree because of the flexibility that it gives you as well, whether it be kind of maybe pursuing a career in law school, or if maybe things change. I do really like to write, and kind of a journalist as well. So it's something that I found is like a field of study that I'm interested in, but also it's something that I feel like whether it is kind of getting into politics and sort of seeing that as a future for me down the line, I believe that it's going to kind of provide me, and it already really has already, sort of the basic skills that I'll need to be able to effectively run either a successful campaign or really just to be able to go back and make the change in my community that I want to.
I see, I see. So you're doing it both from a practical standpoint, but also from a passion standpoint.
Exactly.
That's really, really cool. I mean, personally, my major, the reason why I chose it was for the program because cognitive science is something that's rather abstract. And so, honestly, I did not have a direct idea of what I wanted to do with the degree itself, other than I wanted to go into research. Um, but research is so unstructured that it was really the program itself and the content of the program that interested me. And I was wondering, are there any parts of your program specifically at Yale in political science that really interests you and that you think is a real selling point of that program?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that I think that makes Yale so like just really good at political science. A lot of it has to do with the resources and the clubs and activities that we have, kind of not necessarily outside of the curriculum, but within like the Yale community. That's something that's huge. I mean, we have the Justice Center that operates out of the law school. We also have a lot of different things that kind of deal with international relations. I mean, we have there's different majors within um, that kind of all like three of them that really tie in together. So there's ethics, politics, economics, and then there's global affairs. So recently, I've been really kind of interested in. I took an intro international relations course. That's something that's been really exciting to me, and sort of seeing sort of the really just the interactions between governments and sort of how that factors into decisions that our world leaders are making. But I'd also say that just the opportunity to be able to really is just to hear from a variety of different people from just a vast amount of backgrounds. I mean, coming from St. Louis, it's a pretty diverse area, but my high school that I went to it's kind of diverse, but it was still like it was a smaller school, so I wasn't as exposed to as many different backgrounds, religiously, um, financially, or even just basically race as well, just in terms of people who are different than me. So I had the opportunity to kind of do that at Yale, and that I think is really the most important thing because, I mean, if you're not able to build relationships and really get to know people who aren't the same as you, or people who have different worldviews and ideas and interests, then you're really limiting yourself as a potential leader in the future, someone who has to represent a variety of different people.
Yeah, and that's where your whole diversity uh, background and equity and inclusion chair comes into play that you brought up. So, what has your experience been like? Um, going to Yale and then running for this diversity, equity, and inclusion chair at Yale. What made you want to run? I guess.
Yeah, so basically, it was pretty interesting. It was like an application process, and one of my things that my father kind of taught me from a young age was this belief that wherever you go, you want to leave it a better place than how you found it. And Yale is, I mean, it's Yale. It's a pretty big school, so there's it's and a lot of impressive people have gone through there. But for me, it's about trying to see kind of. I spent sort of my first year sort of interacting with the New Haven community, and which is the city that Yale is in, and then also kind of being on campus and sort of understanding like where can I help? What can I do to make a difference? And so one of the things that I'm excited about doing as this year begins, and we're already working on a couple of projects, is sort of making sure that all of my fellow student athletes feel represented and feel like this is a university that they're proud to play for and be a part of. But not only that, I want to have it as a student athlete organization that's able to really be invested and involved in the community within, well, outside of Yale, so the New Haven local community. I believe that that's something that, talking to a lot of the people where I get my hair cut or if I'm going grocery shopping, is sort of like this gauge of like, Yale is there, but it's bridged off, it's blocked off. And for schools, so many resources, always feel like there's something that we could be doing more of. So I'm really excited to kind of get the ball rolling and sort of move forward with some of the ideas and topics that we have, and just to be able to have the opportunity to represent really all of my my fellow student athletes, but also to be able to kind of speak in directly to sort of how what we can do to be more inclusive at Yale, and really as a athletics program is huge, and it's an honor that I really take a lot of pride in, but also something that I take very seriously, as I want everyone who wears that Y on their helmet, jersey, or whatever, um, to feel like, yeah, this is a school that I'm proud to play for, and it's a school that cares for me.
That's really admirable. Actually, I was curious. I know that you only started this position back in May of this year, but I was wondering if you already had some projects that you're working on that you can talk about, or is there anything that you're looking forward to that you think will happen, or that you're going to try and make happen?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of I can't really go too far in detail just because we haven't finalized everything yet, but we've got a couple of kind of a community-based initiatives to sort of show like where Yale is kind of taking steps forward, but not just to be performative either. We want to have tangible community action steps, and I've got a meeting at 9 p.m. to sort of plan out what those action steps are going to be in regards to in kind of in step with what we're going to plan on doing is like our logo type deal, and sort of how we want to be able to bridge a gap between the all of our different athletic teams, but also our community, and then also making sure that we're communicating and standing very clearly with the rest of our student athletes, that knowing that this is like a place for them. And so I'm really excited about the work that we have. We've got a very diverse group of members within our community, from a variety of different athletics team, but also different student affinity groups on campus. And so we were able to. The goal is that with the so there's SAC, which is like Student Athletic Advisory Council. That's one thing, and then the DEIB committee is a subcommittee out of that as well. So I'm the DEIB chair on the SAC committee, and then I run the DEIB meetings as like my sub committee type deal. And so essentially, with that group that we have, it's diverse, and I think it's just a group that like we're really excited to be able to have. And the goal is to hopefully to have it as where it's an open door, so as more and more student athletes feel comfortable and stronger to create these affinity groups within the athletics program, because you need it. You need to be able to have the opportunity to have a place where you're able to connect with those who look like you, who share the same experiences with you, and so to be able to speak in and speak out on some of the issues that they might face within the athletics community, or things that they want to do to kind of support the athletics community as well.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, especially with how diverse Yale is now becoming compared to past years. And I think with diversity and with experiencing others' cultures, like that's a way that we can learn from others and learn how similar we are than different, especially. I have a funny connection to you, Benny. My government teacher in high school, he was actually a football player and got accepted into Yale for a football scholarship. He was a kicker. And then he later went on to become a lawyer and is now a teacher. So I could see some similarities, like, but two total different people. So now I'm just curious about what led you to Yale. What, um, I guess, when did football begin, and what was your process like going to a school like Yale?
Yeah, so I would say the recruiting process for me was very hectic, and I'm grateful for it. It started off kind of slow, after my junior year, and then all of a sudden I got my first scholarship offer, and the ball just went kind of crazy. And so my main goal coming out of high school was, my parents have invested a lot of money into me, like, and they've made so many sacrifices for my brothers and I so we could pursue our education at really the highest levels we possibly can, that I wanted to make it worthwhile. So I was going to go to school. Wherever I went, I wanted to go to a school that either I could pay myself or I'd be able to go for free. So the Ivy Leagues were not on, since there's no athletic scholarship, they were not on the radar. So basically, I got recruited from a variety of different schools. Kind of more like football heavy schools like um, Arkansas State, Memphis, schools like that, and then Ball State, and then I got academic schools like Georgetown, Air Force, West Point, schools like that. So I was like, oh, okay, this is awesome. And then one day I got a phone call from two Ivy League schools, Cornell and Brown. They wanted to offer me, and other Ivy League schools called and they wanted to offer as well. And so it was actually kind of funny. My Yale offer was, I believe, it was one of the last offers that I got, and I went and this was like, this is Yale. I Mom, Dad, like it's I don't. This is a pretty amazing opportunity. So I got the chance to walk around the campus. I absolutely love my position coach, Coach Netter. I love Coach Reno. Really just love the whole entire coaching staff. And I came back a couple months late. I committed, and then I came back a couple months later for like my official visit, like a week before signing day, and got to interact with the older guys on the team and get to interact with like the Yale community in general. And I was like, this is the spot for me. I love it. I think I can have success here, and the financial aid process really was very generous for me, and it was kind of a done deal from there. So I would say it was a little hectic. It was pretty kind of like, oh man, can I do this? Should I do this? But once that door was open, I was just felt really blessed and excited to have the opportunity, and here I am. So now I just have to make the most out of it.
That is so crazy. Like, okay, as a Canadian, we don't actually have college tuition that is as expensive as in the States, and it really boggles my mind every time I hear about it. But then again, like, we don't apply to the Ivy League school. I mean, we apply to the Ivy League schools in the States like as a ditch effort as well. And so it's really, I think it's really inspiring to hear that, something like a passion can really lead to a scholarship for some, for such a school of such high excellence and reputation and of so many resources as well. And I was wondering, this might be a stereotypical question, but how do you balance athletics and your studies and all of that?
So it's going to be pretty. It's I've got kind of a different sort of background because unfortunately, last fall, or really last year, the Ivy Leagues there was no athletic competition because of COVID. So it's really unfortunate. We were still lifting and training because we're going to play eventually. So we got after it. But one of the things that I really wanted to sort of do in this, I guess, this time where I wasn't able to, be in a season was I wanted to try to take advantage of sort of all maybe the clubs and activities that I wasn't able to do. So I was able to become a staff writer for the YDN. I was able to join like the Yale undergraduate Diversified Investments Club. Uh, Joined WYBC, which is like the Yale radio station. Joined SAC, which was an amazing opportunity, and I'm grateful for it. And I was also part of another youth-led like political think tank, which is called GGI, the Greater Good Initiative. And that was by far one of the most amazing and just like eye-opening experiences that I ever had. I got the chance to do. So I was able to do that in the fall with my academics and with the athletics. So one of the things that I would say, and it's kind of a basic answer, is scheduling yourself. Making sure that you're not picking up too much stuff. I was really lucky and grateful because for pretty much all of the clubs that and organizations I've been, they've been very flexible, kind of working around, football and things like that. Because being a Division One athlete, that's a lot of time, and that's where a lot of your energy and your focus goes to because it has to. But and you love, and I personally I love that, and I love I love football. So, but I also one of the great things about Yale's is that there's a encouragement. Obviously, not at the sake of your your lifting, your training, conditioning, football, nutrition, sleep, all that stuff. But there is an encouragement for you to be able to go out and do some of these things. I mean, one of the things for my coach was extremely supportive of me kind of taking advantage of like the fall is because I was also making sure I was handling my business in the weight room and with football and everything. And that's something that is just what makes Yale unique is that we're all, especially our football team, is that we all come from different backgrounds, and we all have different goals, but we do have one kind of main goal, and that's to win a championship. And everything that we do is sort of tailored towards that. And so once you kind of have, you're balancing that in itself, knowing that you've got all these brothers on the team that you're training with, that you're lifting with, competing with, and even living with, knowing that you guys are all working towards like one goal, it makes it a lot easier to balance your schedule because now you're not just doing it, for yourself. Now you're doing it for all 120 guys on the team who are with me who are still working towards those same goals.
There's 120 people on the football team in Yale?
Yeah, there's a lot. We because of the season was canceled, we returned. The guys who were going to graduate, they graduated, but they were able to get another semester to come back and play football with us. So we've got super seniors, then we have regular seniors, then we have like COVID juniors, sophomores, and then they call us the super freshmen because we didn't play last year, but we're still technically football freshmen. And then there's a freshman class behind us. So there's a lot of guys, but
That's amazing.
yeah.
What position do you play in football?
So I am on the offensive line. I'm one of the big nasties up front. So if we don't get any of you won't see me catching any touchdowns, but hopefully you catch me making the block so we can score the touchdown.
That's amazing. 3 words for Yale: self-discipline, rigor, and support. That's so far the promo you gave me for Yale. So who's ever listening who wants to go to Yale, that's your free promo. Um, and you said you were on a radio show. I had no clue about that. And now you're doing this podcast with us, which can explain why you're so great at talking on this podcast.
Very
So
eloquent, yes.
yeah, so tell me a little bit about, I'm sorry, Lewis, sorry for interrupting you, but tell me about like your transition from high school to college. I know it was online, so it's kind of different than fully being on campus, but what was it like, the rigor from high school to a university like Yale, and how do you balance studying and playing, and how you
Actually, I'm
yeah.
also curious about how how trainings were during, a time when you didn't have a season. The season was canceled, yet you were on the football team. You're the COVID freshman. How did that work as well?
Yeah, so we were lifting weights and we were still doing like agility stuff. So and we were lucky in the fall for we kept kind of running into like these setbacks. So there would be outbreaks with like maybe a different athletic program. then that would shut down the weight room. And we couldn't get in there. And then maybe we get back and resurface, and then Halloween weekend would happen, and there would be outbreaks across campus. So that was it was definitely pretty trying. But so the way that Yale did it for the last year was the freshmen, juniors, and seniors were on campus for the first semester, and then the second semester, the freshmen went home, and so it was the sophomores, juniors, and seniors. So in the spring, I was at home, and so I guess one of my main goals was that when I come back on campus, I want to show everybody like, hey, I've been working, I've been getting after it, and I've been getting after it for you guys. Like looking like this is where I'm in it with everybody. Like I want this, and so that was one of my goals. So kind of when I was at home in the spring, I was enjoying my time with my family, and I was still taking classes and I was working, and so it was challenging just to be away from my teammates and not being there, but knowing that like, hey, I've got to get my lift in every morning. I got to get this running in every morning because if I don't, I'm leading down one of my teammates. That was something that really kind of motivated and pushed me to really want to make sure that, that time at home that I made the most of it. And then to kind of talk about what you were saying, Elena, the transition from high school to college for me was honestly, it was it was a little challenging. I'm not gonna lie. It was a real jump from in terms of one of the things that really jumps is expectations. I would say my high school did a terrific job of preparing me for the rigor of and the need for like a discipline that also comes from my family as well, like a disciplined approach to studying, to really how I take care of everything. But it's still like you don't really kind of know Yale until you turn in that first paper or until you turn in that first exam, and you're like, wow, A, I just did that, and B, that took a lot out of me, because it's just like with everything in life, the further you move up, whether it be from the jump from high school to college or college to your whatever your career might be, there is an elevation and a higher expectation of performance. Just like as if you're a little kid, when you're 5, you don't have the same expectation. That kid doesn't have the same expectation as a 18-year-old because you're older and there's more to it. So that I think was it wasn't, I wouldn't say as much as it's challenging as much as it was um, really, I would say, a humbling. It would be also sort of a good like, okay, that this is different, and you just got to be able to adjust.
Yeah, I never really thought about that because here, see, the difference in Canada is that at least here, I go to 2 years of college before going to university. So I have an extra step between each, and the jump is kind of mitigated by that. But I basically spent my entire 2 years in quarantine with classes online and all of that. I was wondering, did you have classes online at Yale? And how was that dynamic? And did you actually have any in person classes? And what's the contrast between that? Because I'm sure there are tons of students that are going in this year and wondering whether or not they're going to actually have classes in person or whether things are going to be shut down again. And there's probably worrying about what would happen if that's the case. So, do you have any comments and guidance to offer to those students?
Yeah, so I have not had an in-person class since I think February or March of my senior year of high school, right before the kind of the global shutdown. I have not been in person. For all of my class, I've been on campus, but I've been virtual. So I've never had the thrill of walking to a class in the middle of a New Haven snowstorm or anything like that. But I would think one of the things that I would really kind of stress to sort of really anybody, whether they're entering college and you're unsure about Zoom school, Zoom university, or whether you're in person, is one of the things I would say is set goals for yourself and take classes that are interesting to you, especially if you're going to be virtual, because I mean it's going to be it's tough. It is. It's tough to look at a screen for like an hour and a half or an hour and however long your class might be. So I would say take classes that are interesting to you. That really helped me sort of, my freshman year, kind of be able to find at least a little bit of enjoyment in it. And then also, one of the things about Zoom University is it's funny because, technically they say we're supposed to be less connected and, not, as close. And yeah, you miss the, I guess you would say the thrill of seeing someone every single day, like in person and all those daily interactions. So what it does is it forces you to be, I feel like for me, it's forced me to be a little bit more extroverted. I had to be more proactive in kind of trying to build a relationship with my professor, trying to build relationships with my classmates. There was a level of, stepping out of my comfort zone in that. And that's something that if you're going to go through a semester or a couple classes where you're dealing with Zoom, be proactive in reaching out to your professor because they're going through it too. It's just a weird, strange time that we're living in right now, and the best
Yeah.
way you can do it is to try to find people to connect with, to support you as you go through this, but B also, finding resources, whether A, be on campus, or B, just through your professor so that you can find ways to just be able to talk to somebody. Because that to me, I think is sort of the most important thing that anybody can do really is have that person or whoever it might be just to be able to communicate so you're like, it's not just me here, there's other people here and I've got a relationship, I've got a connection with it.
Do you think that most of the connections that you made were through clubs and organized activities, or was it more through unstructured events?
I would actually probably say through unstructured events. And I would think that, well, I'll preface. I when I think of connection, I think of kind of like two different. Obviously, you've got your business connections, like like, oh, I'm building up my LinkedIn network or whatever that might be. So that what I would say was definitely maybe more through clubs or being a part of the football team. The alumni you can talk to. That was kind of through that. But a lot of it, I would say, is sort of when it comes to meeting with classmates. It's really just through genuine, like, for me, I made it a point of emphasis in high school and really in college is I want to get to know at least one new person every single day. And one of the easiest ways in which you can do that is to just say hello. Now, on the East Coast, I will tell you that the hello is not a, it could be very hit or miss when whether you get a response or actually just got to kind of roll with it. In the Midwest, South, it's a little bit. I don't know. I guess they didn't really get that training growing up, but you get to know people and having the opportunity to just talk to people when you see them, being kind of like a offering like a friendly face because you never know what somebody's going through. Like a simple hello, how are you doing? That means a lot, and it's really cliche, but it's something that allowed me, I feel like, to get to know a lot of my classmates who really, like, if you think about it, I mean, I'm a football guy, poli sci. I shouldn't be good friends with my friend who is a celloist and is in some of the craziest math classes known to Yale. And we just went bowling the other day. I mean, it's just been a lot of that has to do with just saying hello, how are you doing, and getting to know them. So yeah, it can be hard, it can be really challenging. But that's one of the best things about college is that you have that opportunity to really kind of branch out and get to know people. And you never know, like, yeah, the world is there's always going to be run into like tough situations with people and it might not work out. It might not be as friendly as it should, but I guarantee you that there's a ton of people who will appreciate you, reaching out, getting to know people. And that's what I think is one of the best things about this idea of connections and getting to like add people, know them is the real genuine like real genuine relationships that you actually build with people.
Yeah, that's very kind of you and thoughtful for you to, set that goal of I'm going to make a friend or meet someone new, one person a day. I think that's a really good goal that I myself should have, you know. I am originally from New Jersey, so I can relate to, like, you know, the saying, like, the farther up north you go, like, the colder the people are, like, the colder
Definitely,
the
it's
area, the
correlated with
colder
the
the
weather.
people. Yeah, but now being in Texas, it's like, hey, y'all, like, everyone's so sweet. It's so different. And so now I'm like, oh, yeah, hi, I have to say hi back, you know?
Right.
And but that's great. Even online, you're still being able to make those connections. And, you know, with me, like online classes, like turning on your camera and typing in the chat and interacting that way. And I hope, Benny, that this fall you get that true experience of walking down the courtyard into a classroom and seeing these people who you've just seen, like, their foreheads or their screens, you know? So.
Right.
That is definitely the dream. Hopefully, it happens.
Yeah. I mean, right now they're saying that we are in person in the fall, so fingers crossed, everything goes as planned. I'll be walking to class soon enough.
Well, thank you so much, Benny, for joining us for this episode of Gen N. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you guys for having me. Like I said earlier, it was a real honor that you guys were reached out to have me on. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Bye bye.